Hello, world. Hello, everyone. A pleasant Saturday afternoon to you. You are joining in this OECS Sustainable Development Summit. It is more than a conference, it is a movement. Today, we will be participating in a very wonderful and exciting discussion. But before I do so, I would like to share with you just a brief summary on the OECS Sustainable Development Movement Summit. It is more than a conference indeed. It is a summit. It is an opportunity for us to gain wisdom, get connected, gain access, gain insights, and gain solutions to various life situations. There are various sponsors, and I do invite you to see sponsors, the opportunities for sponsorship by joining or logging into the website at www.OECSSDM.com. Today we are here in studio with Dr. Rebecca Harper and a number of esteemed panelists to give close attention to the topic called the family and sustainable nations. And so before I start, I'll just provide Dr. Harper an opportunity to put this discussion in context.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for co-hosting this great event. I mean, I was so honored to have all the guests agree. And before we begin, we're going to actually show what this whole event is about, which is so exciting. So I'm going to cut away to the ad, and we'll see what everything is about.
Get ready for the ultimate summit for 2020, the inaugural OECS Republic Bank Sustainable Development Movement, September 23 to 24 at the Royalton Resort and Spa, St. Lucia. Join over 3,000 delegates, virtually or in person, and be a part of the discussion on innovative sustainable development, featuring keynote speakers Damon John, Les Brown, Dr. Didacus Jules, Marlene Street Forest, Chinedu Echeru, Melanie Harwood, plus other global leaders and development partners. A pitch room for innovators and panel and roundtable discussions with strategists, and a modern showcase of exhibitors from around the world. The SDM 2020 Summit, 2 days, intense conversations. Join the movement, September 23 to 24 at the Royalton Resort and Spa, St. Lucia, or online at OECSSDM.com. It's not just a conference, it's a movement presented by the OECS, Republic Bank, and other global partners. Register now.
It's so exciting that we are having this opportunity to promote this amazing event. I personally am an ambassador for the movement, hence why I have met Grace-Ann and so many colleagues. And what I've done today, how this whole summit decided to happen, is I said, hold on, what a better way to promote this event? Of course, you know me in Family Civility, is how can we discuss how to empower families all over the world, not just in the Caribbean, to be able to achieve their own sustainable development. And when we look at sustainable development, there's a process. In order to get community development, we need first and foremost to deal with the basic needs of a family, which is water, health, food and shelter, and security. And peace, which is SDG number 16, you know, our great honored guest, which Grace-Ann will introduce very soon, we both had the discussion that it should be actually number 1 and put in order, because without peace in the family, without peace in the nation, it's very hard to focus on all the ways to achieve development and to thrive as a family. So without further ado, I'd love to pass it back to Grace-Ann, and thank you so much for co-hosting this event with me, because I have to do all the behind the scenes work so that video comes on in time. You can introduce Dr. Akama for us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rebecca. But before I do so, I just wanted, in a nutshell, just to look at the value of family again with the context of sustainable development. You know, with our topic today, empowering families to build sustainable nations, and you have touched on it, you know, the SDGs. The terminology sustainable development has actually come full circle. Initially, when we started, we looked at sustainable development with 3 pillars. It was economics, it was politics, it was the environment. But truly, if you're going to be speaking about sustainable development, it needs a heart and it needs a soul. And this is where human beings come in. And looking at the pillar of the family, we all know that the family is a very important foundation of any society, really. And so where we have stronger family units, strong household units, we are able to see what I call better life chances, better life outcomes among our population. And so to help us with this discussion this afternoon, it is my pleasure to introduce to us Chaplain and Professor Dr. Akarma Onari. I hope I got your name correct, sir. And briefly, Dr. Onyari, he is a servant of the Lord. Very profound. I think this statement says it all. He is a servant of the Lord. His academic profile includes a Bachelor of Arts degree in economics and geography. He has a Master of Arts in Development Studies from St. Paul's University, majoring in peace building and conflict transformation, and a PhD in professorship from the United College and Seminary. Among his various civic and national responsibilities, he plays a key role as intercessor coordinator for the land of Kenya, and he is the country ambassador of International Human Rights Peace Commission in Kenya. Professor, Chaplain, man of God, it is a pleasure to have you in the discussion forum.
And please, if you have any questions for Dr. Akarma, like, share this show, and comment. Thank you, Dr. Akarma, for again gracing us with your presence. I know it's very late in Kenya.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And let me just ask you to say, you have talked about family, a family unit. We come from the family and we go to society or a community, and then we move the nation and we move to the global. So our family is very, very fundamental. And thank you for the topic I'm going to handle this evening, that without peace, there can be no development in any society, in a family, in a community. And I will basically define the word development, the word peace, and sustainable development. Sustainable development is making use of the resources we have today without compromising the future generation by making use of the same resources. We are not the last generation to live. Other generations have lived, they have handed over to us, and we have also to hand a secure environment for our children. Development is a process that creates growth, progress, and a positive change on additional physical, economic, and environmental, or on social and totality. What am I trying to say? Development aims at improving the quality of the life of the people. And the peace is a concept of having friendship and harmony in the absence of hostility and violence. In social sense, peace is commonly used to mean lack of conflict, such as war, and freedom from fear of violence between individuals and groups. Peace is the desire of every beating heart.
Yes.
Peace is the hope of a nation, the promise of any politician, the goal of prayer, and peace is the bold, courageous, ultimate response to the notion that violence provides any viable solution for the conflict of the world. Now I want to connect why peace is very fundamental for development. We have said development is the process of improving the quality of the life of the people in provision of water, in provision of health, in provision of infrastructure. In the totality is the improvement of socio, economic, and political.
Thank you.
Having laid that foundation, as we were ushering the new millennium, the new century, 21st century, we came up with 8 development goals. With these 8 development goals, what happened is this, hear this. Those countries, they were 8 in number, those countries which did not enjoy peace, countries like Somalia,
yes,
they did not even attempt to implement any of the 8 Millennium Development Goals.
because
So
they didn't have peace.
as we were ushering the era of 2015 to 2030, the era of sustainable development, and I've given the definition of sustainable development as using the resources we have today without compromising, without jeopardizing the future generation from having to use the same resources. They will use the same water, they will use the same air, they will use the same sea, the same water, and all the skill environment. Then, out of their wisdom, and as we were proposing, we improved them to be 16.
Yes.
And remember where peace is. Peace becomes number 1. And as Dr. Rebecca said, I was trying to say that peace should be number 1.
Yeah.
But I'm comfortable when you say about turn, then peace will be at the top. Why am I making such a fundamental issue? I've said that those countries which did not enjoy peace did not implement. So peace is development, and development is peace. It is a chicken and the egg.
Okay.
Which one comes? The chicken is a subject of debate. But what I'm trying to say, that peace is very key, because countries which are in conflict, they are refugees in a refugee camp. When can they work?
It's very true.
How can they?
Very, very.
Can they go to school? Can they improve infrastructure? Can they have the health facilities? Can they go to do agriculture? And agriculture, for instance, in Africa, is the backbone of our economy. So during the time for war, people cannot work. Remember this is what anthropology tells us. Because we said anthropology is the study of the primitive societies. Yes. And we call ourselves a modern society. We build a city, taking so many years to build that city. But it takes a twinkling of an eye, we bring that city down because there is a disruption of peace. So peace is very key, it's very fundamental if we have to pursue development. The other point that I want to bring across here is I want to share from my country as an example what happened to it. In the year 2007, Kenya was enjoying economic growth, and in fact, we were heading to double digits. But 2007, when we had presidential disputed election, there was political violence, Kenya was headed to a failed state. Because I did say that Kenya, because of its strategic position, we thank God that the international community was involved under the leadership of the late Kofi Annan, was able to bring to the protagonist parties to the conflict. That is President Mwai Kibaki, and then Prime Minister Raila Odinga. They were brought to the negotiation table. And when it comes to the handling of conflict, parties to the conflict must be able to come together and sit around the table, set the issues which is separating them, then they bring peace. One of the things I like from the 2000 disputed presidential election is one of the security officers, the police, when he was trying to talk to the demonstrators, and you can imagine a security officer, general service unit officer, who is supposed to pity people, push them. He was appealing to them. Why should we destroy our country, which we have taken so many years to build? Imagine that is a police officer trying to promote peace. And when he talked to demonstrators and rioters, they cooled down, and they could not imagine that a police officer will be able to have an engagement with them, have that kind of conversation. So peace is very fundamental for any development of a country to take place.
And that's why I want that example, Dr. Akama, because we in the Caribbean, we don't have civil unrest, but we definitely have political issues between parties. But going back to it as well, and that's on a national level of peace. You know, if the political parties are feuding, and they're having, and we know it, Grace-Ann, in the 70s when we had our political unrest in the 70s in Jamaica, how development went so down because that's what nobody could do anything. So I loved your example, Dr. Akama, when it comes to peace on a national level, and then we look at peace on a family level. If we are dealing with domestic violence, if we are dealing with abuse in the family, if we're dealing with that lack of peace in the house, how can we then go to people and say to them, oh, you need to thrive, you need to focus? And we go to a lot of, and you receive a lot of aid. For example, you said because of your position in Africa, Kenya's position in Africa, you tend to have a lot of aid. However, you can give a community water, you can give a community industry, you can give a community all those things, but if there's no peace in the home and they're dealing with the family conflicts, how can they know to now use these local resources to then build their family?
If I may, I would like to just to step back a bit in the discussion, because while we speak about the destruction that comes from the institutions are destroyed because of the absence of peace, I would like Dr. Akama perhaps to address this issue of the psychological destruction, and the destruction to human capital in situations where we have these war-torn experiences. What does that mean for a country's psychological evolution, and how is it that they see themselves in the global space? Dr. Karma and Rebecca, whoever wants to go first.
Thank you. Let me just use Kenya again as a case study to tell you what happened during the post-election violence in Kenya in 2007. People were evicted from their homes. People were displaced. Their homes were destroyed. Their houses were burned. Their properties were destroyed. Imagine with you in your own house, with your own property, with your own job, having your own wealth being destroyed. You go to live in temporary tents. That is one of the humanizing thing in life. And out of this, people were so much traumatized. People during this kind of conflict, remember, people lose their lives. They use their property. There is families lose relationship, because when conflict arises, you don't run the same direction. Everyone learns for is their life. So out of these, people get tortured psychologically. They have trauma, and it is very important. Where we have said we started from our family. Yes. Remember, there is no school where children can go to be taught about hatred. There is no school where children can go to be taught about love. There is no school where children can go to be taught about peace. Peace can be taught in the family level. So in the nutshell, when you disarm people, you destroy their properties, you kill their loved ones, their children, their husbands, their wives.
Yes.
Obviously, they will be affected psychologically, and I've seen that one happening in our country, and it takes long for people to accept and recover out of it.
And might I add too that psychological devastation takes a longer time to construct or to reconstruct, you know, sometimes the buildings that we erect. Dr. Harper, you had a comment?
No, I mean, that's why I asked Dr. Akama to be on the show, because
yes,
if nobody else I know that can speak about peace in a nation and what the impact it can have, especially with political unrest versus civil unrest. And it's
yes,
so relatable to the Caribbean that I was like, I know he was the perfect person to speak on the show today because of this whole thing about peace. And that's how we're laying the groundwork for sustainable development and the show today. So Dr. Akama, any last words when it comes to peace in the family now? You mentioned it. If there's no peace in the family and there's no justice system to support the peace in the family, because not everybody can get along in a household. We all know that. And I know you are a mediator, and I'd like you, before we turn a half hour, I'd love you to speak on mediation and justice to create peace in the home so that we can lay the foundation for sustainable development as a family.
Let me just talk on sustainable development goal number 17 and then wrap with conclude with what you have asked me. And I'm saying we cannot hope for sustainable development without peace.
Yep.
We cannot hope for sustainable development without stability of families and nations, human rights, and effective governance based on the rule of law. Yet our world today is increasingly divided. Some regions enjoy peace, security, and prosperity, while others fall seemingly in an endless cycle of conflict and violence. I have given Somalia as a case study. For the last 29 years, they have never enjoyed peace. And we are saying armed violence and insecurity have destructive impact on our country's development, affecting the economic growth and often resulting grievances that last for generations. Also, there's one thing we did not talk about, that it also brings about sexual violence.
yes.
It brings about crime. It brings about exploitation. It brings about torture. It's also very prevalent when there's conflict or no rule of law. And the countries must take measures to protect those who are most at risk. The Sustainable Development Goals aim to significantly reduce all forms of violence, be it domestic violence, be it gender-based violence, and work with governments and the communities to end conflict and insecurity. Promoting rule of law and human rights are key to this process, as reducing the flow of illicit arms and strengthening the participation of developing countries in the institution of global governance. And you have said now, what will happen about domestic violence? Domestic violence, when children grow seeing violence in their homes, that is what's going to be a replica to the society. I did say that families makes communities, family makes societies, family makes nations, and the world at large. So domestic violence should never be entertained in the home, should never be entertained in any institution, because children, when they are young, what they see is what they will come to replicate when they are old. I've thought about where there is no peace, and if I use cases, Kenya as a case study of the 2000 post-election violence, I've talked about sexual violence. There was rape. There was transmission of sexual transmitted diseases. Children were born out of the conflicts, and imagine how those children can grow to be. So in the nutshell, there is no development without peace, and there is no peace without development. All of them are the two sides of the coin.
Yeah.
Dr. Akama, before we close this section, and as the forum, the nature of the SDM, it's about bringing solutions to our contemporary issues. Research has indicated that the Caribbean has a violence problem, not a crime problem, right? And there tends to be a greater level of tolerance towards crimes against women and children. Now, in keeping with goal number 5, SDG 5, which speaks about reducing gender inequality, and there are targets there which speaks about reducing violence, I want to ask you, from a faith-based perspective and violence, what are some recommendations you could leave us with in how the church and faith-based communities can work with the home in terms of reducing the acceptance of violence and the acts of violence? If you could give us this in about 5 minutes or less.
Very well. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. We were created in the image and the likeness of God. So, from the development point of view, and as a development expert, families which discriminate against another gender cause violence, they don't develop. But when we bring inclusivity, we bring all members of the family,
yes,
the children, the women and men, there is remarkable chances of development. And here this, Rebecca said, I'm a certified professional mediator. And I've said as a mediator, you don't force people to solve their problem. You create an enabling environment for people to talk and then agree. So what we need to do, a lot of civic education, civic awareness is required to countries in Jamaica or in Caribbean or in Africa or anywhere in the world, of telling people that those children, those societies which discriminate, don't bring the same people on the table. They don't enjoy development. And what we are trying to say, in the modern world today, if you want to proceed, you must be able to allow all the members of the SAD to participate. What do you need to do to participate? What do I mean? We must be able to inform them what sustainable development goals are. We must be able to consult them. We must be able to consult them on how they want to run the SAD. We must be able to reach a consensus to go forward. So from the religious point of view, we will say that we are fearfully and wonderfully made in the image and the likeness of God, that any society which puts God first will never discriminate God's creation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Karma, for those closing words. You left us with two potent solutions. One, remembering our identity to the sovereign Lord. And number two, participation, especially the communities which are most affected, and empowering those communities is absolutely critical in going forward. Thank you so much. Dr. Harper, I hand over to you.
Thank you so much. As usual, you come with so much information. And I want to congratulate Kenya for achieving peace in 2007 and taking that stance to be an example to the rest of the world. And I just want to thank you and just being part of this as well. We're going to cut to the break. And we're going to show, please, the registration for this summit. The summit is September 23rd to the 24th. It's an amazing summit. If you want to be part of the Caribbean Sustainable Goal movement and development movement, this is the place to be in September, and the virtual tickets will be there. And we're going to cut to a break and bring on, now that we have spoken about the solutions for peace, we're now going to go on to the environment so we can set the family in the right place. So we've set them in the right mind with peace. We're now going to go to the right place with ensuring environment and agriculture and the other basic needs. So thank you so much again, Dr. Akama, for being part of the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very well.
Yes.
Get ready for the ultimate summit for 2020, the inaugural OECS Republic-backed Sustainable Development Movement, September September 23 to 24 at the Royalton Resort and Spa, St. Lucia. Join over 3,000 delegates, virtually or in person, and be a part of the discussion on innovative sustainable development, featuring keynote speakers Damon John, Les Brown, Dr. Dinnicus Jules, Marlene Street Forest, Sinedu Echeru, Melanie Harwood, plus other global leaders and development partners. A pitch room for innovators and entrepreneurs, panel and roundtable discussions with strategists, and a modern showcase of exhibitors from around the world. The SDM 2020 Summit, 2 days, intense conversations. Join the movement September 23 to 24 at the Royalton Resort and Spa, St. Lucia, or online at OECSSDM.com. It's not just a conference, it's a movement presented by the OECS, Republic Bank, and other global partners. Register now.
I am so excited about this event. Aren't you, Grace?
Super fabulous, excited.
And, yeah, it's just
punctuating. It's not a conference. It's a paradigm shift. It's a conversation shift. It's an arena for thought-provoking discussions and solutions.
I am so excited because coming from the Caribbean, and we're both from Jamaica, but you've traveled to you're living now in St. Lucia, which is phenomenal. And, you know, this whole thing is so exciting because it's about time the Caribbean unites and really does this on a holistic all-island approach. So I'm so excited to be part of it. And I want to thank the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States for assigning me this beautiful ambassadorship for this event. Now we're going to go into environment, which is very, very important in our whole walk of life. And we're going to speak first with the head of environment, with well, you would like to introduce her?
Yes, I will. Yes, I will. I would like to introduce my colleague, Norma Frevere. Norma, did I get the French right? I guess not.
Yes, Favre.
Norma Favre. She works in our environmental sustainable cluster, which is doing tremendous work. And I'll give her an opportunity perhaps to cite one or two pieces, doing tremendous work across the region in ensuring that given our small size, that we are indeed practicing sustainable practices within the environment. Norma has contributed certainly to our strategic priorities within the organization, which focuses on mainstreaming this environmental, social, and economic consciousness in how it is that we apply of various practices to the environment. So Norma, if you could just share with us briefly some work that your division is involved in getting this message of sustainability across the region.
Yes, Grace-Ann, thanks much. And thank you, Rebecca, for the opportunity to participate in this discussion. Now, Grace-Ann, before I cite some of the examples, it was very interesting to hear the doctor who spoke before, stress on
Dr.
the importance, yes, of peace. And I just said I would have started this afternoon's discussion just with a question for us to reflect. Did you know of the water that exists on Earth? And some persons may not know, 97% of that water is in the oceans, and 3% of the water on Earth is fresh water. Of that 3%, 77% is frozen in ice caps, 22% in groundwater, and 1% of that water is available in rivers, streams, and lakes, which is available to us as potable water. So I was thinking, if you did not know that, now you know that. And this alone is enough reason why we as humans should protect the environment.
Absolutely.
So Grace-Ann, the OECS Commission has undertaken several projects in the area of environment. We've had projects in focal areas such as biodiversity management, climate change adaptation, sustainable land management. Recently, we have completed a project. It was an EU-funded project, the Global Climate Change Alliance on Sustainable Land Management, and that was a very successful project in the OECS. We also completed in the recent past a climate change adaptation project that most persons in the region would have known as the RAP project. And that project basically focused on tourism, agriculture, water. Even more recently, we're about to embark, or should I say, we've just commenced the implementation of another EU-funded project, which is focused on biodiversity in the marine and coastal areas. Now, this project basically aims to contribute to the sustainable development of small island developing states and coastal countries by supporting and improving the management and sustainable use of marine and coastal resources. Now, some persons may wonder why coastal countries are also included, but for those of us who know, when the Barbados Program of Action was negotiated many years ago, countries such as Guyana and Suriname, because they experience some of the same vulnerabilities as the small islands, they were negotiated into the SIDS grouping in the region. So we are doing, as Grace-Ann said, some phenomenal work with the islands, trying to work especially on the ground, touching lives, livelihoods, which is very important because livelihoods for the family, we know that is very critical. And if I could just share an example quickly, I remember when this COVID-19 pandemic started, Grace-Ann, and we were working from home. A friend of mine, she was speaking to me and she was saying that she knows of this couple, both the husband and wife lost their jobs. Because recently we heard Dr. Jules, I think he was the one who cited that 46% of the jobs in the OECS are actually in the tourism industry.
Yes, it's the lifeblood of who we are.
And Jamaica too.
Yes, and she was recommending, she said, with what we heard, that the increase in domestic violence and, that disruption in the family that could take place, she actually recommended that they engage in gardening so that, the gardening brings a sense of peace. It's a low impact exercise. You could get the kids involved in it, take turns. One waters the plants in the morning, one in the evening. If there's an elderly person in the household, they themselves can participate and bring that sense of peace with all what the unemployment that's happening around. Just to get some sort of activity to maintain that required peace in the family until, those parents commence working again.
Well, I am so glad you brought that up. You could not have said something more appropriate for me to segue into your counterpart in environment and agriculture, Dr. Raymond Halal, who is actually from Guyana and doing work in Guyana, and is actually speaking about the environment. So thank you very much for laying such a beautiful groundwork, Norma, for it. But before we go on to Dr. Raymond Halal, I have fantastic news from the OECS. We are having a flash sale on tickets because she's been inspired by the event. She's been inspired by the guests so far. And they have great news that the persons to attend this webinar via this live stream are able to access amazing discounts for the virtual tickets. Regular tickets are discounted from down to $147 per person. and from $147 per person to $100 US. So we're taking $47 off of the ticket price because you're watching this and learning from this. We like to reward learners.
Yeah.
So you can, and the SDM 2020 is the Caribbean's largest sustainable development movement summit. And you can, we're scrolling down. You go to the OECSSDM.com. Go right away because this offer actually expires Monday, July 13th. So spread the word. They're limited tickets. This offer does expire. You can get $47 off of your virtual ticket. So saying that, Dr. Raymond Halal, I'm going to hand it off to Grace to introduce him.
Okay, thank you so much. It's actually Ambassador
Yes.
Dr. Raymond Halal. He is a native of Guyana who migrated to Canada in his teenage years. A self-groomed professional, Dr. Halal has authored several titles, including the Handbook of Trademark Series, the Handbook to Holistic Health, and the most recent, the Handbook to Entrepreneurship. He has had several speaking engagements across the globe. He's an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, and a motivational speaker. Ambassador Halal, welcome to this conversation. How are you?
Thank you, Dr. Carnwell, for having me here. Ambassador Rebecca, for hosting this amazing show. It's an honor to be on with you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So go ahead. So after hearing what Ms. Fevrier was saying about, and congratulations on the amazing work you're doing, by the way. You know, I personally have a background of being a fishing manager in Jamaica, so I know how, you know, the waters are so important to so many fishermen and women. So Dr. Halal, can you tell us more about what your initiative is in Guyana, which ties into the whole environment and empowerment in the families in Guyana?
Yes, my work in Canada has been very successful, but I came from Guyana, and from the mindset of Guyana, looking at a first world country, you always want to go see what's over there. And then I came over here and traveling back and forth, I'm like, okay, I'm lucky. I get to migrate, become a Canadian citizen, travel the world. Now, can I bring everybody out of Guyana or Suriname or Trinidad or the Caribbean for a better life? I said, no. What does Guyana have that the world don't have? And I do that in my work in Africa, but my passion is Guyana. I'm doing I'm doing work across the globe, but I'm from Guyana, and somebody gonna say one day, hey, you're doing so much, what did you do for your own country that you're from? So I've started an initiative in Guyana, which is to plant 1 million coconut trees over the next 10 years.
Fabulous.
And, thank you. And it's a native tree of the country, and most islands have the same thing. Most colder country cannot plant coconut. Coconut has been shown recently to have so many great health benefits. The products, the coconut oil or cream is added to almost any existing product, and it's very sought after. Walmart has an entire aisle of just coconut products. So where does it come from? The Caribbean and warmer country. So I started an initiative. My global initiative is called I Empower Entrepreneur. But when I go into a local community, I say, hey, what is it that you have here that you can bring to the table and be self-sufficient while earning profits, making your community better, and contributing to one or as many of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals as possible. And I've done a research material on this with coconut, and it actually fulfills all of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And just to touch on a few, I like to start it in a reverse order, which is you can't get anything done without number 17, public-private partnership. So until the government has a language, investors look at a different language, farmers have a different language, everybody's looking out for themselves. It's different worlds. And so bringing it together and saying, hey, if we collaborate, you're going to win here, you're going to win here, you're going to win here. The entire globe's going to benefit, because climate change somewhere affect the climate everywhere. And if we can reverse that and be, okay, let's add to the climate here by planting more trees, it's going to make the entire globe healthier by doing so also. And so number 17 is to bring together government, the university, local farmers, investors, students, and cooperation into planting 1 million coconut trees that will benefit everybody involved. And the idea is to eradicate poverty, which is United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 1, and the byproduct is 13, which is cleaner environment. That's how I say it, because people need to have food first, and then think today and live and create economy, and then they'll think about the environment after. No matter how you sell it,
Yeah.
if I'm coming to a farmer and say, hey, I want you to do good for other people, they're gonna say, who cares, man? Who even care about the people in North America? They have fancy cars, they're in the AC. I don't have food. So I have to say, okay, what's stopping you from cultivating this land? You need funding, you need expertise, you need insurance, and all of this is what we're providing with this one initiative.
Thank you, Ambassador Harlal. You know, I sat and I listened, and I'm trying to merge the conversation with Norma and yourself. One aspect which Norma spoke about was the inevitable link between the environment and livelihood. I want you to paint a picture for us on how important your initiative has been to the typical family in Georgetown, Guyana.
Well, I'm aim more at the countryside area, but
Yes.
but it's that's where land is abundant.
Well, go ahead. Use that example. Feel free.
Yes. So across the country, I have farms that I lease, land I lease from the government personally in my company. Corporations, most cooperation now, countries in Canada, America, different countries are giving incentives to large corporation to invest in sustainable development, and it's investing, not donating or gifting. They just invest and they get a lot of tax benefit, lots of grants from the government. Now that's a way to transfer wealth, which was the goal of the United Nations, for a wealthier country to even the plane, to contribute to developing country, to get them up to standard, up to a level of comfortable living where there's no more poverty. Now across the countries, we're partnering with farmers who have land, but coconut is a beautiful thing, but it takes 4, 5, 6 years to actually produce. So farmers that are cash crop farmers have no reason to waste their time or any money in something that they have to wait so long for. And so we go in, but when it start bearing in 4 or 5 years, it goes for 30, 40, 50 years. So it's the ability to sell the vision. One, they get it. They see older trees around them that was there for 70 years that are just now starting to produce less and less, and it's hard to harvest because they're so tall. Now, our company go in and say, here's a check. Why aren't you cultivating? What is it that you need? And so we have a joint venture. Maybe we'll lease the land from them or we collaboratively, they own the land, we plant, they own the land, we own the tree. There's different joint ventures to make it possible for us to cultivate that land. And then we teach them how to do crop rotation, how to intercropping, adding a pond for irrigation, and also have fish in there. So it's touching all of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
Dr. Halal, what I love about the project is also the carbon credit, which is what Ms. Bevier was very interested in, because here it is, that is a direct environmental impact.
Yes.
And when I was talking with Ms. Bevier, we were saying the same thing, right? Norma was like, you know, she knows the uphill battle to tackle environmental change. Yes. When people are like, why? and it is an uphill battle, but this is a way that people can eat and benefit the environment. That's why it's so inspiring what you're doing. So tell us more about how a coconut tree contributes to carbon credit, and just touch on what, and maybe Norma, you could talk about what is carbon credit.
Right. So it's hard to go to farmers and tell them anything about carbon credit and good for the environment. They will say, look at this, Raymond, I'm covered in bush. What are you talking about? So all I can say is, hey, how much money are you making now? And let me help you make more money. And what I say as a bonus, as a byproduct, I say a byproduct. As a byproduct, we're going to help the environment. And the estimate from 1 million coconut trees, once they're grown to a certain, maybe a year or two, they'll be removing the equivalent of 10,000 cars driving on the road per year. That's a lot of positive effect towards the environment. The unique thing about coconut trees is not just the leaves and the branches, but the trunk also stores carbon and remove carbon from the air. So it's just a phenomenal tree to plant. It yields so much fruit. It's good for water. It's good for the dry nuts, and it's in demand globally.
So going to you now, Norma, what is that benefit to the environment now? So now we know what the benefit is to the family. What's the benefit to the environment?
Yes, well, the benefit basically to the environment is, I mean, when you plant these coconut trees and they sequester carbon, we know that this is basically the natural process through which this carbon is removed from the atmosphere. So it is important, very beneficial to plant trees. And it makes me think of one of the projects that the OECS implemented, which was the GCCA Sustainable Land Management Project. And a similar activity was undertaken to plant mango trees, because from some of the storms we've seen in recent years, the mango trees seem to hold the soil very well. Now, when you plant mango trees, you're also addressing not only reducing erosion, which is one problem, but also food security, because you have the fruits, just like in the case of the coconut. And our Caribbean people, we like to prepare flavorful dishes of mango and coconut. So that, I mean, that is beneficial also to the family. Now, one of the things the project did, I think, with the Ministry of Agriculture was like hold a mango festival. So maybe with the coconut, this is something that the coconut project can also seek to replicate. Now, I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about this whole tree planting exercise. And when the professor who was speaking before, I keep forgetting his name. He's from Kenya. Yes, and I was thinking about Wangari Maathai. She was the first environmentalist to win the Nobel Peace Prize, and it was through the Green Belt movement, which was a project on planting trees in Kenya. So, we have examples from all over the globe that we can replicate, we can seek to, repeat in our countries, especially in small islands. And one of the points that I actually wrote down was at the national, regional levels, one of the things, we can seek to do, and which the OECS tries to do, is the South-South cooperation. We could learn from each other, because with the coconut exercise and the mango exercise, we could have a whole conversation where we can learn, from each other and make successful projects even, more successful. So I just want to commend the work with the coconut. It might be something we in the OECS might want to, embark upon. So it's really good work. Yes, and it's very commendable. So
So
thanks for sharing that.
So those who are actually watching, please go right now to the sale. Right now we've dropped our tickets to by $47 because we're rewarding all the viewers of this summit today. But this is a typical example of what's going to happen in September. You know, we have two speakers on environment, somebody from Guyana, somebody from St. Lucia, and now there's like, hold on, let's work together on this.
Yes.
So you spend $100 on this summit ticket, and look what's going to happen with your businesses and your initiatives. So this is a perfect example why you need to come to the summit on September 23rd and 24th virtually, because it's happened online. It didn't happen in person.
And you know, the conversation online has really picked up. It says someone, I'm looking at David Hildrew, says, awesome idea. Can you also do this with other fruit trees? I want to say, of course.
Yes.
I mean, this is the type of thing, the research that we've done with the coconut tree is based off of square footage and so on. So yes, but you want your maximum carbon credit. You want your maximum output. And you look at the trees, yes, all fruit trees are there, but coconut, I'm going to answer for Dr. Halal, sorry, because I love this project so much. You don't understand. I love it because it produces more than one product, not just a fruit.
Yes.
And that's what is so amazing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love my mango. And being in Canada, I really miss them. So, you know, really miss my Bombay mango. But, you know, this is it. And I just want to thank you. We have 4 minutes left of this segment because we have amazing speakers as well to come on. Because now that we've done peace and we've done environment, we're now really going to bite our teeth into community development with Dr. Clyde Rivers when it comes to civility and community development. And Dainty Ann from JSIP, which is Dainty Ann Barrett from the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, where they're going to show how they have used civility to create development. So before we go on to the next segment, and I show the ad again, Norma, do you have any last words in 1 minute about environment and sustainable development and what's happening?
Yes, well, I mean, I just want to say maybe quickly some tips at the household level, because we're trying to focus, you know, on the family, and some of the simple things we could do: conserve water, reduce pollution. We could reuse items at the household level, recycle our plastic, our cardboard, save some energy, carpool, plant a tree, of course, a fruit tree, plant a garden, of course, and involve, you know, your family members, children, and especially even the elderly, because all of this good work that we're doing in the region is also helping us to achieve some of the targets under the Sustainable Development Goals, which is the global agenda approved for countries basically to aim at and to create that balance between the society, the economy, and the environment.
Beautiful. Dr. Halal?
Amazing. This show has been amazing. Thank you for giving me a stage on your platform to share my passion and what I'm doing and how we can collaborate with others to make the world a better place.
Thank you so much. And I just want to thank you again for both of you being on the show and taking the time on a Saturday to do this for the people of the Caribbean as well as for the environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm excited. Are you? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm doing, sorry, this is a technical thing. I lost my post. What?
Is a critical income earner within the region. I mean, I want to underscore the point: grow what you eat what you grow.
I know where you got that from.
You know where I got it from.
Break and we're going to bring in Dr.
Reinforced here at the OECS Commission.
Yeah.
I will tell you this: through the work of our agricultural technical specialists, many members would have benefited from seeds to encourage backyard gardening. So there's an opportunity for you to build your immune system as well as to earn from the cash crop when that time comes.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you so much. So I'm going to actually go to the commercial break so that we can now join in with Dr. Rivers and Dainty-Ann Barrett. So
absolutely.
Let me...
Get ready for the Ultimate Summit for 2020, the inaugural OECS Republic-backed Sustainable Development Movement, September 23 to 24 at the Royalton Resort and Spa, St. Lucia. Join over 3,000 delegates, virtually or in person, and be a part of the discussion on innovative sustainable development, featuring keynote speakers Damon John, Les Brown, Dr. Didacus Jules, Marlene Street Forest, Chinedu Echeru, Melanie Harwood, plus other global leaders and development partners. A pitch room for innovators and entrepreneurs, panel and roundtable discussions with strategists, and a modern showcase of exhibitors from around the world. The SDM 2020 Summit, 2 days, intense conversations. Join the movement. September 23 to 24 at the Royalton Resort and Spa, St. Lucia, or online at OECSSDM.com. It's not just a conference, it's a movement presented by the OECS, Republic Bank, and other global partners. Register now.
So yes, this is amazing because, I mean, it's a movement starting today. And nobody knows movements better than Dr. Clyde Rivers. And Grace-Ann, I'd love you to introduce him, and then we'll go to Dainty-Ann.
Good evening, good afternoon, Dr. Clyde. How are you?
Can you hear us, Dr. Rivers? Oh, we lost him.
We lost him.
So Dainty-Ann is part of the Jamaica. Oh, we have Dr. Rivers back. Let me just get him back. Hey, this is not bad. This is the first technical difficulty we've had the whole show. Hi, Dr. Rivers.
Dr. Harper, how are you today?
Fantastic. And Grace-Ann is going to officially read your bio. We had to cut it short because this man knows, there's no other man in this world that knows a movement better than Dr. Rivers.
Okay, Dr. Rivers, let's go. It's Sir Dr. Clyde Rivers. He's the United Nations representative for Burundi. He's the representative, I beg your pardon, he's the recipient of the Danny K. Davis Peace Prize in 2017 and founder and president of I Change Nations. Sir Rivers, could you engage us in perhaps a few minutes just telling us about the I Change movement?
Yeah, one of the things that I created with I Change Nations is as I traveled throughout the world, I saw all these people that were doing great things and no one acknowledged it. They always talked about the actual older heroes of countries, but no one talked about the modern day heroes. Mm-hmm. And you see, and the one thing I discovered, if you don't show people who's doing good in their community today, they will have no one to look up to. So I established the world's largest culture of honor, showing people what is honorable.
Yes.
And the actual foundation that we laid was the golden rule. When you have companies that are treating others the way they want to be treated, that's the model that we want to build around the world. So as example, I've been able to honor 15 presidents in Africa. I met first ladies, prime ministers that are doing good for humanity so that we have someone we can look up to and say, if I do what that person does, I can be recognized as well. So it's just a phenomenal organization. We are working in over 120 countries now, establishing honor where honors due.
You know, Dr. Rivers, before I hand over to Elizabeth, I have to offer my own commendation, especially as I read your biography. Bestowing honor, it's such an important part of our tradition. Mm-hmm. Within the community space, it's vital, you know, that type of, what we would say in Jamaica, maximum respect.
Yeah.
People who make it who make it happen. And what you're actually doing by honoring today's leaders, you are changing the script that our success is not something in the past. We are continually on a road to improvement. So good work. Dr. Harper.
Thank you.
Thank you, Grace-Ann, for such an integral. In fact, you have been to St. Lucia, correct, Dr. Rivers?
No. Matter of fact, I was supposed to go there, but I haven't been there yet.
Oh, well, it's September 23rd and 24th. The problem is the quarantine, but we hope to have you. I wanted to actually speak about civility.
Yeah.
Yes, honoring the people that are doing things, which is something that is phenomenal. But how can we use civility to really achieve the developmental goals, especially when we are now trying to help families to make such drastic changes in their life?
You know what? We have to change the whole paradigm. The paradigm of the old institution was a win, and if I win, you lose.
Yeah.
That's the wrong scenario. We can all win. Now what takes place, and right now you're watching these institutions around the world are crumbling because it was built on an adversarial foundation. When you understand the principle of civility, what you sow, you reap. If I look to do good to my neighbor every day, I'm going to reap good back.
Yeah.
If I look to take advantage of my neighbor every day, I'm going to lose in the end. And you see, Dr. Harper, the one thing I tell people, there's an unintended consequence when you mistreat people. When you mistreat people, the actual way you treat the person is the same way you'll be treated. So, and I'm watching this in my own nation right now. I'm watching America face consequences of institutional systems. So, guys, you don't get away with that with God, because God's created people, and he cares how people are treated. So it's very important that we bring the element of how to treat people, because it isn't taught anymore. People are not taught how to be kind anymore. It's not taught because of the actual broken family institutions. So it's possible for a person to actually grow up in a country and never hear kindness or know how to be kind. So it's important that as we bring this initiative around the whole world, it actually plays into all of the goals. If I treat people, the issue is this. Watch this, Dr. Harper. If everyone treated others the way they want to be treated, would there be famine? No, because nobody wants famine. Would there be abject poverty? No, because no one would want that for themselves.
Yeah.
So if we can teach people how to treat people the way they want to be treated, and I know it sounds like it's pie in the sky, but it's not. I tell business owner, if you were working that job, would you be okay with the same salary? If you wouldn't be okay with the same salary, would you be okay with the same working conditions? If the answer is no, then don't put them under it.
Yeah.
And these are the institutions that we're bringing around the world, because here there's 7.8 billion people, and they all have gifts.
Yeah.
So if we treat them well, we better our communities and we better our world. Thanks, Dr. Harper.
Amazing, amazing. And you see, this is why I'm so happy you agreed to be on the show, because guess what? We are about to have an entire region coming together in September to network, to discuss sustainable development in our countries. And what you have just said is we have to stop, if we want to do this for ourselves, we have to ask others to do it as well. So, that golden rule is so needed, especially when you're doing community work, especially when you're under the pretense of helping others. Because why do you help others?
And Dr. Harper, the one thing that people don't understand is there's an unintended consequence. When you mistreat people, eventually you are treated the same way.
Exactly.
So I tell people, I hear this, people, they don't do things out of the goodness of their heart. Most times they do it because of a consequence.
Mm-hmm.
You say, look at here. If you create, it's amazing right now what I watch around the world. I'm watching unjust things that took place for other people are now taking place to the oppressor. And they're going, Dr. Rivers, man, can you help us? I said, look, guys, this is what you created.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have to interrupt it with civility for a change. So I'm watching exactly what people sowed years ago is coming back to them now. What's this got to do with the world and developing? If we stay with the old paradigms, this is the issue with the. I have no issue with a person that's actually privileged. I have an issue with the underprivileged. So if you're privileged, then that means there's an underprivileged.
Mm-hmm.
We need everyone to be privileged. We need everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So I have no problem with privilege. Just make sure everyone's privileged.
Yes.
And that's a mentality of scarcity. We've taught the world scarcity, but there's really abundance. So we have to change the mindset of the institution to where if I win, you lose. No, we all can win through civility.
And that's it. There is abundance. There is abundance if we actually treat that abundance with civility as well. You know, and that's, and I just want to move to Dainty Ann, and then we'll have the group discussion. But Dainty Ann comes from the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, and Dr. Rivers, you're going to love this. And this is a government organization that actually allows the community to lead their initiatives. Dainty Ann, and she's a project manager that I've personally worked with on a few projects. And that's why I was like so glad to have her on the show, and she agreed. And I just want to, I'm going to say Jamaican. I have to big up JSIF. We call it JSIF for short. Dainty Ann, can you explain more about how JSIF works and the way that they do use that civility to do your work on behalf of the government? Oh, hold on. I think, wait, we have a little glitch. No, you're muted?
No, it's okay.
Can you hear?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear. Are you hearing me?
Perfect.
Yes.
All right. So thank you for having me, Rebecca. The Jamaica Social Investment Fund is a part of the government of Jamaica's poverty reduction program, and we really invest in community development. We address what is called public poverty. So our investments are largely towards infrastructures like roads, schools, water systems, health centers, infrastructures that would benefit the community at large. But our model of development is that it is community driven. Wow. So we will never just walk into a community. Communities have to apply to us for an investment. So when they apply to us, they would have already done their development plan to identify what their priorities are. And when we go in for appraisal visits, we are going in and we are engaging the entire community. So they are invited to community meetings to hear, one, what are their issues, but two, how do they propose to address them? What do they think is the best solution to the problem? What can they contribute to the process also? And so the community is integrated right throughout the project cycle. So after it is appraised for the social soundness of the project, when we come to design, the designer has to go back in the community to say, this is what we have designed. What are your thoughts on it? And this is important because the knowledge of the community is critical.
Yes.
When we're talking about rural development, we're talking, for example, a road project, a community will know what are the areas that flood.
That's right.
We don't live in their community. They know. It's important that they're integrated. So when it comes to the design, their feedback has to be included. Wow. Similarly for the school, similarly for all projects. And once we are approved, once we've selected our contractor, we have what is called a project information meeting, and the community is advised. These are the stakeholders that will be working on your project, and these are the lines of communication. This is how your issues are to be escalated and aired. And one thing that is very critical is a concept that we call community contribution. And community contribution establishes to the community that, listen, this is not a handout, this is a partnership. We are working with you to do your development. And so they are required to contribute to the process in what we call sweat equity. So it may be that they may be able to provide water, they may be able to provide security on the site, they may be able to provide a site office, they may be able to provide refreshments for their opening ceremony, for their signing ceremony. And what we do, we quantify that, we give a dollar value to it. And at the end of it, they're advised, this was your contribution to your project. And so that establishes from the get-go, it is a partnership. And SDG 17, I think, is what talks about partnership. We don't only partner with the community, but we partner with the state agencies that will take over the maintenance of these infrastructures. But I want to add that the capacity of the community is also built because they are given maintenance training. They're given preventative maintenance training. So they will never have to wait on the government to come to patch a small pothole or to address hairline cracks at a school. They have a committee that is trained, given seed money, given tools such as items to do minor repair works, but they're also trained in how do you raise funds. We develop social capital that they know how to network with other entities that can provide funding. So our investment in the community is one based on partnership. We don't go in and say, here, we say, what are your needs? And we meet them where they are at. When we leave, their capacity is enhanced. Now, Rebecca, I heard previous persons speak to the input on the family. I want to say, not because these are community infrastructures mean there's no impact at the family level. A road infrastructure, for example, will mean that a farmer will now be able to take his produce to the market. And if we know rural development, we know it's a family affair. So we know the person will be able to provide, the children are also able to access schools, the sick are also able to access healthcare facilities. Market vendors will come into the community to purchase from the farmers. And so we recognize that just that infrastructure opens up the entire economic activity of that community, and it trickles down to the household level.
But it gets better. Their balance of projects, range, deals with gender inequality. It deals with education. It deals with equal opportunities. So I have to do it because she knows it's a pet project. Daintian, can you please talk about the playground?
Well, before I get to the playground, I wanted to mention how we got there in the first place. We operate on the mantra that development should be holistic, and even putting down an infrastructure by itself may not have the impact that we intend. So, for example, when we build a new school, we provide an additional block of classrooms. Yes, the children get increased, they get better spacing, and we are able to meet the ministry standards. But what about the quality of the education? And so we provide capacity building for the teachers, and when we introduce them to what are the measures that can assist them, we always try to align our investments to the policy direction of the government. So we are putting the investment in the strategic direction of the government to ensure that everything is lining up. Now, we recognize that the Caribbean generally is behind in terms of responding to persons with special needs, children with disabilities. And so we started putting our investments there, and we've been addressing special education. But we recognized that one significant thing regarding recreation was missing. There are no playgrounds for persons with disabilities in the region, to my knowledge. And so we are now embarking on how we can construct the first fully inclusive playground just to serve the population. And so we are in formulation and design phases now, but similarly, civility still persists because we have met with all the main stakeholders in the community of persons with disabilities, with the ministry, the NGOs, PWDs themselves, to find out what do you want, because ultimately we are not the experts. We have the resource, and we are now channeling the resource that it suits their needs. So at the end of it, beneficiary satisfaction is most critical, and that is what we are aiming.
You know,
Wow.
as I sat here and I listened to Dr. Rivers and Dainty and the other speakers, you know, I think, and this is the mantra of the SDM, conversation is absolutely important.
Yes.
Come around the table, hearing the different views.
Yes.
There will be opposing views to your views, certainly, but having that conversation with the stakeholders is absolutely important. And you know, I have to put this in, being a fellow Jamaican. You know, it seems as if JCIF is well advanced into making Jamaica the place of choice, the place to do business by 2030. Big up yourself, maximum respect.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Rivers, let's just lay the stage. Dr. Rivers, you now are on a screen with 3 Jamaican women. So, yeah.
You know what I think we can
Some
do?
comments here, though. We ought not to forget our online audience. I would like to read some of the views.
Yes, we have
Our online audience. So there's a comment here from Raymond Harlal. We heard from him earlier. Amazing work. Jamaica is leading in the right direction. There is a question from, and we could take this from Dexter Miller. Dexter Miller is asking, how can the OECS Commission make a mark in community development when the leaders of the OECS are cultivating a crop of people they can reap whenever they please? Your ideas are wonderful, but without a change of mindset of our leaders, that is difficult.
And I would like to take on that answer because
I
want to take it on because this is why this summit is happening. And you know, Dexter, I love your realness in this question. You know, and I love the authenticity of this question. This is why we're going to start with the family and empowering the families to make the choices. And that's why Dainty Ann was here. And that's civility, Dr. Rivers. This is a big one for civility because many people are disillusioned based off of what leaders have done in the past. And it's all out for them. But we now, as you said, I want you to answer is we have to change the paradigm. But how do we change that paradigm, Dr. Rivers?
You know what? Innovation. See, government follows innovation. Government doesn't lead the way. It governs. Any country I go into, they govern, the ones with the innovation drive change. Let me give you an example. Uber in America changed the taxi system. Airbnb changed the hotel industry. Now, what takes place is this: people have to understand that their ideas lead the way. And innovation will drive government. So if you want to change things, get a better idea and manage the idea. It's that's a reality of how the world works. Ideas govern. Ideas lead the way. Governments govern.
Yeah, excellent answer.
But we also need to include Dr. Rivers in the midst of ideas, and you mentioned it in your earlier point. Each wins. That with the ideas, there'll be various persons at the table with different expertise and skills.
Yes.
And therefore, different people, based on where your strength lies, you'll be able to drive a particular process. So what we are doing this afternoon in tandem, though it's about the family, but things operate in a symbiosis. The nation, the family, the nation, is to get that expertise together, to get that conversation going, and the strengths we rely on each other. You know, a hand is not a foot. An eye is not an ear.
Good.
But the eye can't say I am not seeing today because I don't feel like seeing, because it compromises how the foot and the hand goes about their regular business. I just wanted to show the interconnectivity of the process.
Now you know where all my analogies come from.
Elizabeth? Sorry.
Dr. Rivers, that's the same way I talk. And then he talks like the hand over it, shake the thing. And he's like, where do you, and now I just love the fact that you and Dainty are on because he's like, oh my God.
Okay.
Yeah,
yeah, Dr. Rivers.
What I think has to happen is this. You know, the actual issues of the world are not going to be changed overnight.
No.
I think one of the like challenges is we have to manage expectation for change.
Yeah.
We have to create institutions that teach people, great, this actual mindset is not going to change overnight, but the actual idea can come. And when we take the idea and help walk a generation and a nation into a win-win mindset,
Yeah.
that takes time, but it's possible. And if we start with win-win scenarios, as the great lady said, one of the issues I see in the world is every stakeholder is not at the table where the stakes are high. You have one culture at the table. No, we have to have everyone bringing their contribution, and at the table there has to be equity of voice. It has to be equity of voice. Because if I know you're the boss, now at times I'm going to shy away from what's real. So how do we create a system that has leadership that can listen and implement the right things? That's our challenge, but it can be done.
It can. And Dayton?
Yes, Rebecca.
Because you do that. I mean, you have faced it. We have faced in projects where you have leaders that try and, well, it's out for me, and that meant, and I really respect Dexter for this question because it's created such a wonderful discussion. Yeah. And I hope that Dexter registers for the summit because we need his voice in this summer. He is, as you said, a perspective and a voice that's needed for change. Right? Dayton, we've had stakeholders that have been part of projects that it's for me. We have had projects that have had to been, gone awry, or at first it sounded good, and then these are the things that we have to accept when these voices need to change. You know what I mean? Dayton, can you speak more on that?
Well, what I think, Rebecca, is that it's important that all voices come from the get-go, at the beginning of the conversation, as Dr. Rivers spoke to managing expectations. JCF is a non-partisan organization. We are not aligned to any political party. We are political to community development, rather. Nevertheless, we also recognize that these political representatives are stakeholders within their communities. And it's how do we establish a relationship for the project to move forward? Because sometimes, remember, there are certain levels of approvals that may be required. Yeah. Sometimes within the communities, there are certain issues, challenges, criminal elements, etc., that may come up, and you may need these stakeholders to help you to manage. So charting your stakeholders from the get-go and identifying how do you manage them is important. We're not going to get rid of them. We're not going to get away from them. So it's developing a strategy to manage them and weave them into the process appropriately, that everything can flow smoothly. Because if we don't include them, that's going to stop your project. And if they take over the project, that's going to stop the project also. So I think we have to get to the point where we recognize that all stakeholders are going to come to the table, and you have to be proficient enough to know how are you going to manage them so that ultimately the beneficiaries get what they should from the project.
And we go back to the playground, Grace-Ann. The playground started at one location initially, right? And we realized that location had one of the stakeholders that were like, well, it's going to be for us. And Dayton said, no, this is not, it needs to be free. It cannot be accessed. It cannot be limited to anybody. It has to be able to be accessed by the families that have these children. And she just said, okay, we're changing the location, right? And she went and looked for a location and looked for a stakeholder. But if she didn't do what she does best, which is project management, we did it. I mean, and going back to expectations, again, this playground has been in the works. When did we bring it to you? It was like 3 years or 4 years ago.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
about 5 years. So what happened with the playground is that I wanted it in my location, and I presented it for funding for JSIF, and then I ended up going to Canada. So this is a perfect example of how a project can change and turn, and you have to switch things and it's 5 years in the making. I mean, when we spoke about this, and then she told me about the playground was actually happening, I cried living eye water, because it was something that we have to, yes, things do not change overnight. It cannot change overnight, but we're learning community science. And I wanted to talk about it, Dr. Rivers' perspectives, people's history.
Yeah.
And how, just touch on that a little, because we still have to deal with our culture and history.
Yes. What I discovered is this, man, people don't know what they don't know. Yeah. So many times our experiences, our histories are colliding, because my historical experience is this and your historical experience is this. So what happens many times, we have an historical collision. And when our histories collide, now we have to listen for change. So giving people the permission, like right now, what's going on, in America, some cultures don't understand the African American culture because they've never lived it, and I don't understand their culture because I've never lived it. So every time we have arguments, if you go to like your perspective narrative, nothing ever gets resolved. But when you say, look at here, let's talk. Our histories are different. Let us look at how to move forward. Now, when I have more knowledge about your history, so it's important to understand that there will be historical, cultural collisions when you talk about how to solve problems. But the whole key is this: if we teach people the mechanism of how to actually listen to each other for change, now we are listening with a different intent, not to prove I'm right or you're wrong, but how can I listen to find the way forward for us? And then the one thing that I want to say that can help with actually corruption is do everything on a computer and don't allow people to ever go to the office.
That's actually on that note, I want to thank Daintian, because Dr. Kama, who I have to say, I think it's like 1 o'clock in the morning right now.
Oh my goodness.
I want to bring him on in this discussion because I think he would benefit, like it would be great. Daintian, I want to thank you and the entire team does at JSIF. Congratulations. You heard the comments being spoken how you're leading the way. And I just want to say thank you. So thank you for being on the show and work, and please let Mr. Sweeney know that we're just so inspired by his leadership at the Jamaica Social Investment Fund.
Thank you. My goodness.
Thanks.
So I'm gonna bring in Dr. Kama in this because it's just amazing, unbelievable. Hi, Dr. Kama, welcome back.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Okay. You saw I read a foundation, and you see how Dr. Rivers has concluded.
Where did Dr. Rivers go? Oh, he's back. Go ahead.
Yes, I have commented and I've said that people have got a right to participate, to be involved, to be informed, to be consulted, and so that their voice can be heard, and that's what Dr. Rivers has recommended.
Yes. There's something which I wanted to ask, so as we could continue to etch the conversation within our initial title, which was empowering families to build sustainable nations. History is very important. Dr. Rivers, you spoke about that and having this conversation. I wanted perhaps to spend some time taking a look at this topic within a context which, there are numbers, there's sufficient statistics to prove some elements, and then there's also the general observation. In the case where we have marginalization of our men, I'm interested in having us perhaps explore this matter through a gender lens this afternoon, empowering the families, the sustainable goals. How are we going to have our men, particularly our men of African descent, or our men of African descent, make a more positive contribution towards this matter of empowerment, community building, and improving impactfully on the Sustainable Development Goals? Did I lose you?
Jared, do you want to answer that, or you want me to go?
Yes. I did give a recommendation, and throughout the discussion, that nobody should be left behind. Development cannot be done by women. Development cannot be done by children. Development cannot be done by men. Development can be done by all of us. And we are saying, and I did say, that societies which move forward, which develop, are societies which do not discriminate. We know our history. Our history is one which has discriminated us, but we don't live on the past. We must look forward to the future with a lot of hope, saying that, and Dr. Rivers has trained me on this one. If you want to be not to be ignored, you work smart. Smart people, nobody can ignore smart people. So African men, the black people, we have the liberty to bring everybody on board. Let every voice be heard.
Let me respond to that. I think we have to change the education institution. As I look at most parts of the world, the actual education histories doesn't show men of color being as successful. Most of the history in the education is about other cultures, and it doesn't show our successes. So at a certain point, if I keep looking at people as heroes that don't look like me, it does something to the mentality. So this is why I've created I Change Nations. We're going to bring a culture of honor so that we can begin to establish a new narrative that actually says a Jamaican mind, an African mind, an African American mind, an actual brown mind is a mind. And it's a mind that can be innovative and have success. So at the end of the day, I look at, we have to confront institutional biases in the education structures of the world.
On the show right before this one, we talk about the domestication of a family, when you talk about biases and how a family domesticates us on family. And one of the things I say is we need to get off the seesaw of privilege. Privilege is a seesaw, and one person has to be down for the other one to be up. And, you know, even the one up has to get off the seesaw.
Yeah.
Right? And we now need to go on to that, as you say, collaboration. Not all of us can win at the same time, but we can win. We can all win at some point.
Yes.
Right? But it's not a seesaw where you constantly have to be down in order for one to be up.
Yeah.
Come off that seesaw, which is correct. And I think why Grace-Ann was saying it is because we Jamaican women are so strong, and we're actually a matriarchal society because a lot of single mothers bring up our boys. And what has happened is our boys have grown into men without a voice to their women, and then they use force, or they use their strength or other ways to get their power back. Yeah. And we want to know how to use that civility to balance the scales.
Yeah. See, I think what we have to do, again, it goes back to the institution. If a system is created not for me to benefit, if I have to be this to actually benefit, and the whole key I'm getting at is let's create positive systems and opportunities. This is the issue I see in the world with actually black skin, is there has to be equity of opportunity, not equity of things. We need the same opportunities that everybody has. We're not asking for handouts. We're saying, no. I just want the same opportunities, because the opportunities are where the imbalance is if we didn't create the system. So does that help your question, Matt?
It does, because I actually watched an amazing movie today on Cubic about Eugene Brown in America, who did the big chess club. And chess is predominantly played by white people in America.
Yes.
And if you go to Jamaica, you can see this chess is huge. And what it is that he brought chess into the inner cities of America. And when you speak about opportunity, that was the first thing I thought. Why can these are the opportunities from children's age, not just financial opportunities or economic opportunities. The children need to be able to address their personal talents. Not everybody can play basketball. Not everybody can be a DJ. Not everybody can be those stereotypical. We need to provide. And that's one of the things now, bringing in my Family Civility Initiative. That is one of the things of the Family Commission. It's actually one of the departments to create these opportunities, because one of my biggest sayings is the greatest gift we can give our children are the opportunities to succeed, not the things.
Right.
Right. If my child is good at chess, every weekend I was at a chess tournament in Jamaica. Every weekend. He loved playing table tennis. And so every afternoon I was there, but he wasn't like my big son who played football, soccer, football. Sorry, you're outnumbered on that one, Dr. Rivers. Football. So, and then my daughter baked. So in other words, these opportunities that I had to search for need to be provided for everybody.
Yeah.
And if you get these opportunities to shine at a young age, you will know that those opportunities at an older age, you will look out for those economic opportunities.
Yes.
And the other thing I say is, even if you're helping somebody, and this is where civility and community development happen, is do not make them feel like they're less than while you're helping them. Right? This is my issue with charity and NGOs. Oh, you're a single mom. Oh, you have no dad. No, you're just as worthy.
Yeah.
But here we are to see your talents, and we're here to give you the opportunities, because we, like I say about you, Dr. Rivers, you don't just see the light in people, you ignite the light in people. Right? And that is what it is. You don't make people feel bad that you're a single mom, or you're a single dad, or you're from no family, or you don't make people feel bad about themselves. You see that light and say, you know what, you deserve my help, because I see that light in you. And that's how we need to address charity.
We talk about
a little.
Elizabeth,
Jared. Let go first.
Dr. Rivers as a solution, and the solution is civility. And the civility, what we are saying, that every voice matters. And in the modern contemporary society, if we don't communicate, we don't listen, we don't talk to each other, we are in trouble. Everybody, be it children, be it women, be it men, has got a role to the society, and may we deliberately take time to hear their voices. They have got a contribution to the society.
We are important. We're important. I think this is the tone of the conversation as we prepare to close this evening. We are all important. Another takeaway so far has been creating systems, not of equality necessarily, but of equity, ensuring that various persons are able to access different opportunities. The conversation that we had this afternoon, one interesting tone was bringing stakeholders to the table. And, I think we all know this, but I believe because of the nature of the plurality of our audience this afternoon, the table sometimes it's not a table as we understand it to be, this fixed structure, but it's to meet people sometimes at different avenues. The table can be changed. It's to meet people at their avenues, to have that discussion. Not everyone will be able, and I'm just using this as an example, not everyone may be able to come to Morn Fortune to have a discussion on how it is we empower families. But how can we make ourselves at Morn Fortune? This is the home of the OECS Commission, mark you. But how can the members, for example, of the OECS communities, how do we find ourselves in the community centers, on the street corners, in the classrooms, having that discussion on empowering families and building the nature of sustainable goals? You know, before we close, I'd just like to give each person here just 5 minutes just to offer your own take as we look at empowering families, the nature of what we are doing in the Sustainable Development Movement Summit. The date is September 23rd and 24th in St. Lucia. Let us look at what the summit is about. The summit, it's about a conversation. It's about a paradigm shift. We have been speaking about a number of shifts this afternoon. So I'll take your closing 5 minutes in terms of how do we move forward. And I'll start with Dr. Carmel.
Yes, thank you. The conversation this afternoon has brought it very out that there will be never development without peace. And if we have to offer solutions to the problem facing the world, conversation is very key. And every voice matters.
Yes.
And everybody has got a role to play, because we were all created in the image and the likeness of God. We must have the character of God in doing all these things. We have talked about sustainable development. Do you know in Genesis chapter 1, verse 28, 29, we were created to be stewards, to be responsibilities. For those of us who are believers like me, when we make to heaven, God will ask us what we did for His environment. So let us take care of the environment. Let us embrace peace. Let us love God's creation.
Thank you, Dr. Akarmo. May we hear from you, Sir Clyde Rivers.
Yeah, I believe that God made 7.8 billion people with different gifts. I believe 7.8 billion people will solve 7.8 billion people's problems. And I believe people have to understand that everyone born is gifted to solve a problem. And if that's your problem, you want them to be alive. So we have to revalue the currency of the world. It's not money, it's people. Because every idea, everything built in this earth came to somebody from an idea. So ideas in people are the currency that leads the way. So 7.8 billion people, and they're all valuable. Thank you so much for having me.
That's very profound. The currency of this world, not money, people. Dr. Harper.
You know, we need to bring civility door to door, you know, and one of the things is, and that's why today happened, and it is to empower the family, because it starts with the family, and we can't let our parents set up to fail. We can't set them up to fail by saying it's their fault, but not teaching them how to make the corrections and not belittle them. I'm going to give you an example. Family civility is a universal design of family, meaning we are civil, we love, and we support families despite their gender, despite their sexuality, despite their disabilities, despite their biologicalism. Yes, I made up that word. And this is where we're at. And despite the fact that it's a single parent home or a blended family, or single mom, single dad, they're all worthy, just like the 7.8 billion people. And each family has something to give as a group. And if we start treating them as worthy as they are, and as Dr. Akama says, with the opportunities, and give them the equity of the opportunities without belittling them. And that's by bringing them to the table. And it can be done. And that's why I'm so passionate about this summit coming up in September, why I even applied to be an ambassador, because this is where we're at. We are inviting everybody to the table. Yes, you have to pay to be part of the table, but you're getting a $47 discount today until July 13th, right? If you want a voice, be part of the discussion, this is where it starts.
Thank you so much. I'd like to add my 2 cents worth as part of the closing. Community and family transformations include a change in the mindset. And so I'd like to close with a part of what Apostle Paul from the book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 2 would say. It's written, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind."
Wow.
Upstairs. It has been a very great, a very impactful conversation. We're very pleased with those who were able to participate online and to have their views shared in the column. We look forward to having you be a part of this movement in St. Lucia on September 23rd and 24th at the Royalton Hotel.
Okay.
There is a special discounted rate on tickets. It's down from $147 US to $100 US. It's a worthwhile investment. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm just going to quickly play the video one more time so we have all the information there.
Get ready for the ultimate summit for 2020, the inaugural OECS Republic-backed Sustainable Development Movement, September 23 to 24 at the Royalton Resort and Spa, St. Lucia. Join over 3,000 delegates, virtually or in person, and be a part of the discussion on innovative sustainable development, featuring keynote speakers Damon John, Les Brown, Dr. Didacus Jules, Marlene Street Forest, Sinead Echeru, Melanie Harwood, plus other global leaders and development partners. A pitch room for innovators and entrepreneurs, panel and roundtable discussions with strategists, and a modern showcase of exhibitors from around the world. The SDM 2020 Summit, 2 days, intense conversations. Join the movement, September 23 to 24 at the Royalton Resort and Spa, St. Lucia, or online at OECSSDM.com. It's not just a conference, it's